Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Joseph Zahir. So, I think we all agree on one thing, that we're living exciting moments now. Not only for the Middle East, not only for Egypt or Tunisia, but for the world. On an international scale, I think what happened and what is happening in different countries is absolutely fantastic. And so what happened today, I don't know if you followed the news, in Bahrain, 2 people were killed because of the clashes. There were 10,000 people in the streets last few days. 2,000 people slept overnight in the Pearl Square, rebaptized by the Bahraini people, the Tahrir Square, in relation to Egypt. Iraq also, we've witnessed today and yesterday demonstration ongoing against the current government for social, economic, political reasons. Algeria is moving. Next Saturday there's a demonstration. Libya as well, the two last days as well, demonstrations. So I mean the whole region is on fire. Egypt is ongoing. Tomorrow hopefully we'll see huge demonstrations. And Tunisia also, we shouldn't forget, are still demonstrating to achieve the revolution. So, what happened? How does everything happen in the Middle East, from North Africa to the, as we call it, the Mashriq, the Middle East? Is it spontaneous how it was portrayed by the media, especially the Western media, saying everything was spontaneous, everything started on the 17th of December when Tunisian citizens self-immolated him. People revolted just like this because they just started to say we're enough of these systems, of these governments. The same way the student movement in Great Britain, in the UK, wasn't spontaneous. It was the same for the Middle East. Nothing is spontaneous, just comes from the sky and people decide to revolt. I think just like in the UK, people, leading the student movement had political struggle experience from before, had political education from before. I mean, we should not forget the anti-war movement started from Afghanistan and after Iraq, where we saw 2 million people in the street of London. It's amazing. After also political education in Lebanon, Gaza. So in the UK, people had political education. What happened in the Middle East? We didn't talk about the political struggle ongoing for many years. In Tunisia, we had universities being centers of resistance. One friend of mine had to leave since 15 years ago because he was politically active in Tunisian universities. Strikes, workers demonstrating, workers mobilizing, occupying factories. In Tunisia, notably in 2008, we had huge demonstrations, huge strikes going on in Mainz region, especially in the region of Kvax. And you had sitting occupational workplaces in Tunisia. In Egypt, you had the biggest social movement since the Second World War. End of 2009, you had 500,000 of workers from tax collectors, workers from tax collectors that were in the street. 500,000 of people. You had huge demonstration going on in Mahal al-Kubra, in different factory regions where factories are very present, especially in the Suez region. Hundreds of demonstrations ongoing each year, in each past years. So Egypt was a center of resistance. Workers were demonstrating, were fighting against this authoritarian regime and neoliberal policies. So political struggle was present before. So it wasn't spontaneous. This is very clear. And what were the underlying reasons of this political struggle and resistance from especially workers and students? And I will explain why they were at the forefront of the resistance. First of all, political reason, I would say, of course, the authoritarian regime, the corrupt regime ongoing for 30 years, but especially the second biggest, for me, the first most important reasons, the neoliberal policies implemented since more than 30 years, especially in Egypt and especially in Egypt and in Tunisia. Neoliberal policies have been implemented in Egypt since Sadat era. In Tunisia, it has been accelerated, especially when Ben Ali came to power. These countries became matchmaker service for foreign companies, for foreign services. Neoliberal policies completely impoverished the society as a whole and were catastrophic in terms of social and economic issues. What happened? So when I said they became matchmakers, these states, especially the regime, became matchmaker services for foreign financial interest. So you had a lot of foreign companies coming in these countries because of low salaries, using the workers for their low salaries. So most of the factories were producing low added value products. So the companies were basically based on foreign consumption. So they were very dependent on foreign consumption, foreign financial interest, and you had the little bourgeoisie who was this medium for this foreign services, for foreign financial services, and became very enriched, but were at the services of this foreign financial institution, companies, etc. And these were the regime in place. So following the 2009 crisis, these countries that were very dependent on foreign consumption, the society completely cracked down, a lot of factories were closed, and the social consequences were catastrophic. And it went over 30 years of neoliberal policies. Some figures, in Tunisia you had more than 30% of unemployment. And from these 30% of unemployment, 50% of them were students or graduate students. It was in Egypt. It was 80% of graduate students were unemployed. Very often, if you went to Tunisia or Egypt, you would find people, graduate student with graduated in sociology, mathematics, whatever you want, working in shop places because there were not job opportunities for them because the country economic policy was based on low added value production. So there was no job opportunities for graduate students especially. And what happened also, it was a policy of privatization of public services on a high value, ongoing for 30 years. So what happened? Students going out from universities, no job opportunities for them, whereas for workers in public services, they have seen their rights and their salaries decrease for 40 years because of privatization. So these two actors of the society were the most suffered from the neoliberal policies. So they came at the forefront of this movement of protest in Tunisia, Egypt, and other countries as well. Because Jordan, who's been also a lot of movement of protest, also has been implementing neoliberal policies for 30 years. Bahrain as well, been implementing neoliberal policies for many years. So we arrived at a situation that the workers and students together became the main actors in this movement in Egypt and in Tunisia and other countries as well. So now we entered the revolutionary process in Tunisia and Egypt at the fall of their top leader of the regime. Tunisia was Ben Ali, Mubarak for Egypt. But what is the next step? How do we achieve true revolution? How do we achieve democratic and social rights? This is the question now arising in Egypt and in Tunisia. Other movements are still not entered, I would say, the revolutionary process. They're still trying to topple down the top of the regime. But Egypt and Tunisia entered this revolutionary process, definitely. And so, first decision that have to be made by the movement of protest in these countries, in Tunisia it has been made that it's ongoing, and in Egypt as well. The first demand is that the reminiscence, the symbols of the ruling regime are kicked out, are resigned as well. So we saw Mubarak resign, but it's definitely not enough. In Tunisia, you have been, since now a month, ongoing resignation of ruling members of the ex-ruling regime. But still you have Mohamed Ghannouchi, the prime minister that has been in place during the Ben Ali regime. But the foreign minister, most of the different ministries, the important ministries, it's new minister. So this is the first step, definitely, of getting rid of the reminiscence of the old regime. In Egypt, the program is in 6 months you will have normally elections that will elect a civilian government. This is the first step to take. And in the case of Egypt, we shouldn't forget that the top military that are now in power were linked to the regime and were the regime of Mubarak. And they stayed with the same policy. First decision they declared, past international agreements will be respected. Same policy as Mubarak. So it's a message to the Americans and the US foreign policy saying we want to reassure you, we're still on the same path than you. So it means the peace with Israel is respected. This was the first declaration made by the Supreme Council of Armed Forces. After the second declaration, please stop the strikes, workers go back home. Same policy as Mubarak. Same policy as Mubarak, because the army in Egypt is a big financial actor, a big economic actor. It has business in hotelery, in oil, all different sectors of the society. So how would you achieve democratic and social rights like this? First of all, you get rid of all these people, hopefully, but how to get rid of these people, concretely speaking, you need to achieve, in a way, a socialist revolution. What does that mean? The issue of nationalization is going to come back for Tunisia and Egypt. Why? Because if the main means of production are in the hand of the symbols of the ex-ruling regime, they will still be able to control the country. This is what was the case in Tunisia. So now they're starting to speak about nationalizing maybe few factories, industries, because the Ben Ali family and relatives, which was mainly 3 big families, had a hold on every kind of sectors of the society. Going from the intellectual means of productions, newspapers, radio, television, they controlled mainly, from also the major means of other means of production. So now the next issue for them to completely topple the ex-regime is going to be the nationalization. And in Egypt it's going to be the same. Because the threat of Egypt is that the army plays a role similar to Turkey in the past. So it's on the upfront is a kind of civilian government, but every time it's not in agreement with their politics, with their interests, they will step in. And this is the main threat for Egypt. They will say maybe they might accept a civilian government in 6 months, but will this civilian government have true power?